This video file is recorded in Sabancı University during the recitations for the CS201 Introduction to Computing course, as it was given in the fall 2016 semester.
Let's continue with the 9th example. I think it's the 4th for today. So, let's concentrate here. What you should do is the following. What is the output of the following program? You have two functions. One of them is called DoIt. It takes an integer called n and a reference called a. It's also an integer, and it's doing this stuff here. Another function called DoThat. It takes two parameters. Both of them are integers, and both of them are references. The first parameter, this is very important. The first parameter is called a. The second is called n. Okay? Here, the first parameter is called n. The second is called a. It's important. So the order we send the parameters is very important. The first parameter that we're going to send will be called in the DoThat function, let's say a, and the second parameter will be called inside that function as n. And of course we have main here. Let's do something more than that. You remember the trace stuff that we did like a month ago? Trace means that as the program progresses, tell the values that a certain variable had. This is called tracing the variable. Here, let's do both of them, although the program is not asking for this. And if the program is not asking for tracing variables, you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't complicate your life. But I'm going to complicate my life here. Okay, just to show you in case you have such a question in your exam. So, this is our main function. It's very important to understand this one because you can expect something similar. I think you had something similar in your midterm 1. It will be something similar in your midterm 2, maybe even final. So, if you couldn't do it in your midterm 1, then you have another chance to understand it here. So, this is the main function. And it's very simple. I mean, you'll see it. Here we have three variables, namely a. Initially, the value of a, as you can see, is 8. Let me write it like this because the values are going to change. We have b. Initially, the value of b is 5. And we have n. And initially, the value of n is 2. I hope we are taking both the board and the projector at the same time, if it's possible. Okay, because it's important. So we have a, b, and n. A is 8, b is 5, n is 2. Then I'm saying the following statement with the second command, with the second line. The value of a is the value that the DoIt function is going to return. So first I have to execute DoIt, and DoIt is going to return a value, and that value is going to be assigned to a. But when I call DoIt, I called it with the parameters a and b. So let's see how it's working. This is DoIt function. And let's see how DoIt is working. You see, DoIt takes two parameters. One of them is an integer n. This is not a reference. And since it's not a reference, we have n here, which is defined. Okay? But a is a reference. That's why we have an a here. And this a is pointing, this a is the second parameter, is pointing to a variable, I mean it's showing, it's referencing to a parameter from main. Namely, what are we doing is the following. So we are calling the DoIt function, we are in main here. So this is a, b, n from main. We are going DoIt with a. A is the first parameter, but you remember the first parameter in DoIt is n. So basically the value of a in main will be the value, the copied value of n in DoIt. So what's the value of a? It's 8. So in DoIt, n will be 8. Also, we are sending b as the second parameter. So we are sending this guy here, b. But this b in the DoIt function will be known as a. Okay, so this is a, and basically we are dealing with the same parameter, with the same variable, okay? In main it's called B, in DoIt it's called A. And this is a reference. We don't make another copy. But for n we made another copy, since it's not a reference. Now our job is to write the output. So the output, let me write it here, I hope I have place to do it. So this is our console. Let's see what do we have here. So we are calling the DoIt function. Here we are printing n as it is seen in the DoIt function, and we are printing a with an empty space in between. So what's the value of n? It's 8. I'm printing 8. There's the empty space. And I'm printing a. What's the value of a? It's 5. So I'm printing 5. It's very important to understand this, the logic behind this program. I'm incrementing n by 1, n plus plus. This is what it means. I'm incrementing n by 1. So n is 8. I'm just going to, if we want to trace its value, I'm going to erase the old value. And I'm incrementing it, it's now 9. Then I'm saying a is equal to a plus n. So this a is equal to a plus n. And what's the value of a? It's 5. N is 9. 9 plus 5, it's how much? It's 14. So this a from DoIt is going to be 14. Remember, we are in DoIt. Now I'm printing again. I'm printing n. What's the n in DoIt? It's 9. So I'm printing 9. I have an empty space. And I'm printing a. It's now 14. And I'm returning a plus n. So a is 14, n is 9, 14 plus 9 is 23. I am returning 23 from this function. It's integer, this integer. And I'm going to the main function where I left. So return 23. And when I'm returning this 23, you remember we were left here. So when the DoIt finishes, we have 23 here instead of doing. And this 23 is going to be assigned to a, but a from main. So a from main is going to be 23. The old value 8 is going to be erased. When a function finishes, everything that is associated with it is also erased. So the DoIt function finishes, and what was associated with the DoIt function? The variable n. This a, the name only, not this guy here. We have it here in main. But n was part only of DoIt. But b, which was called a in main, is not. So the name a is erased, but the variable continues. This return is returned and assigned to 23. So I'm erasing this guy. And there is nothing related to the DoIt function in the memory. Now let's go with the next line. So we're finished with this one. We are printing this line now, a, b, and n. So the value of a is now 23. I'm printing 23, empty space. B is 14, empty space. N is 2. I'm finished with this line also. Now I'm calling the DoThat function. I'm here. Let's see what DoThat is doing. So I'm calling DoThat. And DoThat, if you remember, takes two parameters, which are both of them are references, as you can see. The first parameter is a, and the second parameter is n. So when I'm calling DoThat, I'm passing n, and this n in the DoThat function is referred as a, and this a here in the DoThat function is referred as n. So a refers to n, and n refers to a. Okay? Now let's see what is DoThat doing. We declare another variable here, which is called t. And we say that this t is equal to a. But which a? A of DoThat, since we are calling it from DoThat. So t is equal to a. A is this guy, so t is 2. We are printing a and t from DoThat. When I print a, we have 2. Then I'm printing n, empty space. N is 23. And finally I'm printing t, and t is 2. Okay, we are finished with this line. And I'm saying a is equal to 2 multiplied by n. So this is a. And a is equal to 2 multiplied by n. 23 multiplied by 2 is 46, and it's assigned to n. So we have 46 here. Then we are going to this line. N is equal to a minus 10. So n from DoThat is equal to a from DoThat minus 10. 46 minus 10, it's 36. So we don't have 23 anymore in a, we have 36. Meaning we don't have 23 in n. From DoThat function, we have 36. Okay, and finally we are printing this line here, a and t. So a is 46, n is 36, and t is 2. This function doesn't return anything, that's why it's void. And everything that is associated with this guy is going to be erased from our memory, namely the t variable together with the allocated memory, this name n, but not this piece of memory here, not this box, this name a, and this is it. We don't have it, as it if never exists, never existed. Finally, we just finished this piece of code. We call the DoThat function. And we are here now. We are printing a, b, and n, but from main. I don't have place here. That's why I'm continuing here. So I'm printing a, b, and n, which is 36, 14, and 46. Return 0. Function finishes. Okay, is this clear? Any questions? Remember, you are asked only to write the output, and this is what you should have written for the output, but I also did the tracing stuff, and this is the trace. Okay, namely a initially had value 8, which was changed to 23, and finally it's 36. B at 5, finally its value is 14. For n we had initially 2, which was changed to 46. This is called tracing. How the value of a certain variable progresses as the program is being executed. Questions? Did you understand it? Honestly. How many of you understood it? Please raise your hand. Okay. Do you want an applause from me or? No. Maybe you should give me an applause for this one. I'm joking. This is my job, actually. So if someone deserves an applause, it's me, because I explained it so you can understand it. Joking. All right. This was the 9th question. Now let's go with which one? With the 11th question. So, this is question 11. Okay. Read it and try to understand it. And tell me what it is looking for, what you should do. I mean, I am doing this on purpose. I can explain what the program is asking for, and we are going to write the solution here. But let's say that you are in the exam, and that you should read the question. First, try to understand it yourself, and please give me feedback and tell me what you understood from the question. So understanding the question is very important. If you don't understand the question properly, you're not going to write the correct solution. Even if you write the correct solution for what you misunderstood. So, you have 1 minute to read the question and please tell me what it is asking for. Because we have time, like 20 minutes, even more, 30 minutes. So, you understood it? Okay. How many of you understood it? 1.5. What about you other guys? Come on. So from 1.5, it's now 2. It's becoming 2.5, 2.55, I think, for you. So you're understanding the question. It's nice. Say hello to your friend for me. There was a professor that I saw on YouTube, and he gave interesting punishments to students that were texting during the recitations and lectures, or were talking to someone. And the punishment was the following. He should come in front of all of the students and talk with loudspeakers to his or her friend. Okay, this was the punishment. Is that a good punishment? So come here and talk to your friend. But we should put rules, man. Next semester, maybe we should put rules about being late and texting during the lectures. Yeah, I'm talking about the next semester. Okay. So probably you're not going to take the advanced programming course. Don't be afraid. I mean, usually you talk to your father and it's how are you doing? Are you okay? It's something like that. But the whole class, I mean, laughs about that. Okay, so what is this question asking from us is the following. We have 2 strings, and we should start from the end of the strings and check how many characters, starting from the end, how many characters are the same in terms of sequence. For instance, we have this sentence here. Koysalar onume bariyerde, çocuk da yaparım kariyerde. You see that this ariyerde and this ariyerde is the same. The first mismatch from the end, starting backwards, is this B and this K. Okay? So, how many characters are the same? Ariyerde, ariyerde. Let's count the characters. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Our program should return 9. Yeah, we might have occasionally matches, but if the first mismatch occurs, we don't care about further matches here. Okay, so that's why I'm asking for a sequence of matches, unbroken sequence of matches from the end to where the first mismatch occurs. So how are we going to do this stuff? Let me write those 2 sentences here, because I'm going to tell you the algorithm, and when you understand the algorithm, the code is easy to understand. So, I'm writing the first sentence. The second one, let it be so. Çocuk This is not for me. I suppose this is for a female person that is looking for a career. Okay, don't misunderstand me, please. Okay. I'm going to do it from all of the characters here. Okay, so each bar has one character. And so on. So let me write the second sentence also. Okay. We don't need those bars to be too long. This should be sufficient. Just let me tell you from the beginning that the length of this string is 25, meaning it has 25 characters. I counted them. And this string has 27 characters. So what should we do? We should check their corresponding ends, whether they are the same or not. Okay. So the first string, let me call it str1, has 27 characters, and the second string, let me call it str2, has 25 characters. We start from the end and check the uninterrupted sequence of matching characters. So, what's the index of this guy here for the first string? It's 26, exactly. So 27 is the str1 length. It's equal to 27. And 25 is the length of the second string. It's, let's call it str2 length. It's 25. So you said, we know we have 27 characters. We start counting from 0. So this guy is 26. Meaning, in terms of the length, because the length might be different for different strings, what is the index of this guy? It's 26, yeah, but in terms of string length, yeah, string 1 length minus 1. Yes, this is it. Because string 1 length is 27 minus 1, it's 26. So it's string length minus 1. What about this one? It's string 1 length minus 2. What about this guy? I don't have a place there to write it. That's why I'm going to write it here. This is string 1 length minus 3. Okay, and so on. Minus 3, minus 4. For this guy here, we have string 2 length again, minus 1. For this guy here, for the second letter from the end, we have string 2 length minus 2. String 2 length minus 3, and so on. So what would your algorithm be? And our job is to count how many corresponding letters from the end in an uninterrupted sequence are the same. Yeah, but we should just count them.
Maybe we can do a loop.
Yes.
Begin from 1
Exactly. From 1 up until
until
1.
9. Maybe.
Which length? Very nice.
The short.
Exactly. We start from the 1, and that 1 is this one. Okay, 1, 2. So when we increment the I of that loop, okay, basically we are going backwards in this manner. And we should go because it might be the case that everything is the same. 25 characters are the same, but the problem of the second string is that we don't have more than 25 characters. Okay, so if we try to access the index -1, it will be a mistake, a compiler error, and your program will crash. Okay, that's why we should start from 1 and check. So we have a kind of a counter, let's say. And see, we start from 1. Are those equal? Yes. Then the counter from 0 is 1. This is I. This is our variable that we use for our for loop. Okay, y initially is 1. And we check whether string length -1 is equal to string length -2. I mean, string 1 add, string length -1, string 2 add. I mean, those two, if they are the same, then counter, initially the counter is 0. We don't have any matches. When they are the same, yeah, we increment it, make it 1. Then the counter is incremented. This I is incremented to 2. We check the second from the end. Are they the same? If they are the same, yeah, we increment it. And so on, up until we come here. So eventually I will become 9. And we are checking string length -9, string length -9, string 2 length -9 from the end. Are they the same? Let's say they are the same here. We are at this A here. Yes, so the counter here will be 9. When we try to check the 10th character from the end of both strings, it will not be the same. So the loop will finish. We will put it in the condition. Okay. If they are not the same, then get out. Okay. And print this counter. However, there's another, so one condition, how do we stop the loop? The condition for stopping the loop. So, condition for stopping the loop. 1, first mismatch. 2, which one? What if all the characters match? Let's say string 1 has 27 characters, string 2 has 25, and all of the 25 characters match. We don't have more characters. That's why if we come to the end of the shortest length, so if one of those two occurs, then we should stop. First mismatch, or if we come to the end of the shortest length. So there should be an end clause. If this and this happens, this and this happens, this or this happens, we go out. Now, can you write the program? I should do it again. Yeah.
What if we can, the string can be cleared there, and there will be a space between the clear and the, I mean,
No spaces. They should be exactly the same. I mean, if we...
In the question it only says the character, so...
No, with the space, the empty space is also a character.
Then there should be more than 9, isn't it?
Let me check it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Because the first mismatch is at the 10th character from the end, okay? So we should return 9. Remember, the space is also a character. Everything is a character. If you understood the algorithm, I think we will have easy time to write the code. Maybe I shouldn't have erased it, but if you understood the code, it will be very clear to you from the code what I'm trying to do. The algorithm is the important part. Okay. As you remember, we should find the shortest length of the two strings. That's why first we are going to define a function which is called minimum. It takes two parameters, integer parameters, a and b, and it returns the minimum of them. Trivial function, rather. So if a is smaller than b, then of course return a. Otherwise, else, we even don't have to write this else, because if we have one return, the function automatically finishes. We don't check the other lines, okay? So even if you don't, that's why I'm going to comment it here like this. Otherwise, return b. If a is returned, if it's the minimum of the two numbers, this is it. We don't return twice, only once. However, if this condition is not true, even if we don't put else here, automatically we are going to return b, which is what we are looking for. So this is the minimum function that we are going to use. And let's start with the function. The name of the function is called rhyme counter. Rhyme because when you know what a rhyme is. Can you tell me what a rhyme is? When you write, if you're a poet, you know, you try to write your writings with rhyme, meaning that the last words should match of your poetry. So, string S1, it takes two parameters, two strings, string S2. We define the count, which is initially 0. In our example, finally it should be 9, okay? And we define another variable I, you remember I, for the loop. We defined other variables, which I also showed them to you. They are S1 length, which is the length of the first string. And how can I get to it? Remember it? Come on, I'm not going to write the date class. So there is a member function for all the string variables, which is called what? Come on, how can I get the length of the string? Length, of course. S1 length. This is a member function, that's why I'm writing it with parentheses. I define another variable called S2 length, which is equal to S2 point length. Now, what your friend said. We should find the minimum of two lengths using this function, and we cannot try to compare characters which are out of the range, I mean that are smaller than index 0 of the shortest string, okay? So the name of the integer will be up to, and this up to is basically the minimum of two strings. We are comparing up to the minimum of the two strings. We cannot continue and check index smaller than 0, because it will be a mistake, an error that the program will crash basically. So what's the name of the length of the first string? It's S1 length. I'm writing it here. The name of that gives us the name of the length of the second string is S2 length. Okay. And this is the for loop, the most important part of the program. So for initially, what's the value of I? You remember 1. We started from 1. I is equal to 1. Now let's leave it for afterwards. Semicolon I plus plus. So we increment the index starting from the end. So you remember we have string length -1, string length -2, -3, and so on. And what was the first condition to stop? What? Mismatch. And how do we get the mismatch? With? Very nice. You can put it if inside the for loop. But here, you remember, the for loop expects a condition which can be true or false, just like the if clause. So the first mismatch is the following. S1 at, you remember the at function. It gives the index, it gives the character corresponding to the index we are sending as a parameter. So S1 at, S1 length minus I is equal to S2 at S2 length minus I. Okay, I becomes 1, 2, 3, and so on. Okay, if this is true, go inside. Okay, but this was one condition in order to continue checking. What was another condition that should be true? That we have not reached the minimum of the, we are not going to take the index before 0. Okay, so, and what? Think about that. Nice question, by the way. Okay, so this is part of the same clause. Always here you put conditions, and if those conditions are fulfilled, you go inside to the for loop. We have count plus plus. So if there is a matching between the characters and we have not gone to the minimum, then very nice, increment the counter. What I said was slightly different. What I said, when we should stop, when there is a mismatch, which is the opposite, and we should stop when this is smaller. This is greater to up to, because we started from 0. If this is greater to the minimum, then we should stop. One of them, or. So, if you know the Boolean algebra, you understand what I'm talking. Basically, A. Do you remember how did we write the and? Okay, let me write it. So A and B. The opposite of this guy can be written as the opposite of A or the opposite of B. Now this is what I said it to you, if you remember it. This is Boolean algebra. You're going to see this stuff in logical design. But this makes sense. I mean, we start from the end of both of the strings, and I keep counting up until, I mean, if the strings at the end, the characters at the end match, and we have not gone to the minimum, then increment the counter. Okay? If they don't match, or if we have gone further than the minimum, so if any of those two is not correct, then skip the for loop, finish the for loop, go outside from the for loop, and what should we do? We should return the count. This was what the function was asking from us. This bracket is for this one, and this is for the main. I know that my handwriting is not the best in the world. That's why my mother wanted for me to be a doctor, because I don't know how things go in Turkey when they write recipes or prescriptions, you know, they write something like this, you know. Okay. Did you understand this part here? About the logical, the Boolean expression, yes or no? If you understood it, it's very nice. You're trying the logic, you're understanding the logics behind the Boolean algebra, okay? You can make it with examples. What is the opposite of this one? Well, the opposite of this one is this one. Did you understand this example? I suppose yes. This is the code, the algorithm. So, if you all understood it, we can have a break of not 5, 7 minutes. I'm joking, and we will be back.